The morning sun glinted off steel beams as colossal excavators tore into the earth, sending clouds of dust spiraling over the suburban lot. Karen Hollingsworth's voice erupted first, slicing through the roar of machinery. "Move it! Pick up the steel! Step back, everyone!" Marcus Drayton's blood ran cold. Towering behind him, a three-story mall was rising where his family's land had rested for generations. In the center of the chaos, they locked eyes. Karen spun toward Marcus, pointing a finger at him and shrieking, "This is private property now. Get out. Clear the site." Engineers ducked under her orders. Excavators paused under her glare. As police cruisers tried to maintain order, Karen bellowed again, her finger unwavering, her fury unmatched. Every command sharpened Marcus's resolve. This suburban nightmare had only begun. Dust and steel collided in a cacophony of chaos as Marcus Drayton stepped closer to the site, his boots sinking slightly into the churned-up earth. The three-story mall loomed above him, skeletons of steel beams jutting skyward, scaffolding creaking with every gust of wind. The excavators behind the structure worked like beasts, hissing and grinding, each swing of the arm sending clumps of soil and debris into the air. Karen Hollingsworth was at the epicenter of the storm, her blonde hair glinting in the morning sun, her voice cutting through the roar of machinery like a whip. "Move faster. Shift the steel. Get him out of here now," she shrieked, spinning toward Marcus. Her finger jabbed at him relentlessly, her fury unmatched. "Step aside. You have no say here. This is private property now." Marcus's fists clenched, white knuckles pressing against his palms. Every steel beam being hoisted, every bulldozer tearing into the earth, felt like a personal insult, a violation of his family's legacy. He raised his hands to signal calm, but Karen only barked louder, calling engineers and workers over. "Pick it up. Hurry. Don't listen to him." Her voice bounced off the half-built walls, echoing like thunder across the construction zone. A police cruiser screeched to a halt at the edge of the site, red and blue lights painting the chaos in surreal colors. Officers jumped out, hands raised, trying to assert authority. Marcus spotted them immediately and ran toward the nearest officer. "This is my land. Stop them. You can't let this happen." Karen whirled toward the police, still pointing at Marcus, her shrill tone cutting through the morning air. "They have no right. None. This is my project. Clear him off the property." Her words were like daggers, slicing tension into every worker and bystander. Engineers froze mid-task, unsure whether to obey her frantic commands or heed the officers. Excavators ground to a hesitant halt. Workers whispered among themselves, eyes darting nervously between Marcus, Karen, and the flashing cruisers. Dust settled for a heartbeat, and in that suspended moment, Marcus realized just how high the stakes were. Karen's defiance wasn't just administrative arrogance. It was calculated, cruel, and unwavering. He stepped forward, holding up a worn leather folder. "The deed," he said, his voice steady, calm against the raging chaos. "This land belongs to me. Everything you're building is illegal." Karen's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sharp sneer. "A deed? That won't stop progress. I'm the HO. I decide what gets built. Move away." She stomped a booted foot, and engineers flinched, fear etched on their faces. The police hesitated, caught between two storms, Karen's unrelenting orders and Marcus's righteous fury. One officer finally stepped forward. "Ma'am, sir, let's calm down. No one is to continue construction until this is sorted legally." Karen spun on the officer, screaming like a tempest. "I said continue. Do you want chaos? Get him away now." Marcus's eyes narrowed. He took a deep breath, knowing words alone would not end this confrontation. The mall's skeleton loomed behind Karen, a monument to her arrogance, steel, and concrete defiance against justice. He realized that if he didn't act, the building, his family's legacy, and the law itself would be trampled. From above, a drone-like perspective captured the tension in full. Marcus standing rigid, Karen shrieking with outstretched arm, officers forming a hesitant barrier, workers frozen mid-motion. The sun glinted off steel and glass, reflecting the chaos in miniature shards. And then, just as Marcus moved to confront Karen directly, an excavator swung dangerously close, sending a shower of sparks as steel scraped against metal. Workers screamed. The police officers shouted commands. Karen didn't flinch. She only yelled louder, pointing at Marcus with fury unmatched. In that heartbeat of terror, Marcus realized something chilling. This was only the beginning. Karen's ambition had no limits, and the battle for his land was about to become a war. The sun had climbed higher, casting harsh, golden light over the construction site, illuminating every twisted steel beam, every mound of shattered concrete. Marcus Drayton stood firm near the property line, the leather folder containing the deed clutched tightly to his chest. Dust swirled around him, stirred by the thundering excavators, as Karen Hollingsworth's voice pierced the air once more. "Faster! Move those beams! He has no say here!" she screamed, spinning from one engineer to another, her fingers stabbing toward Marcus like a spear. "Step aside, Mr. Drayton. I'm in charge here, and I will not be stopped." Engineers scrambled frantically, trying to obey her orders while stealing glances at Marcus. Even the excavator operators hesitated, aware that the land legally belonged to someone else, yet fearful of Karen's wrath. One machine groaned, its massive arm swinging dangerously close to a half-finished steel column. Sparks flew as metal scraped metal. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He had expected defiance, but not this level of audacity. Karen was treating the property like a stage and herself like a queen. "You can't just bulldoze my family's land," he called, his voice strong, cutting through the chaos. "This is illegal. You'll answer for this." Karen's laugh was shrill and sharp. "Illegal?" she bellowed, pointing at him with both hands now. "I am HOA. I make the rules. I decide what gets built. Move away before I have you removed." Her words whipped through the workers like a storm, some ducking instinctively, others frozen, paralyzed by fear. A police officer approached cautiously, trying to mediate. "Ma'am, sir, we need to. Do you see this?" Karen shrieked over him, spinning her arm toward Marcus and then the construction behind her. "He thinks he owns it. Clear him off the site now. Do it." The police hesitated. They could enforce a temporary halt, but Karen's defiance was relentless. She turned, almost theatrically, to watch an excavator lift a massive steel beam. The machine groaned and swung dangerously, narrowly missing a support post. Workers screamed. Marcus flinched, then realized the chaos itself was her weapon, intimidation by sheer audacity. He stepped forward, exposing the leather folder. "I have the deed," he called again, louder this time. "Every inch of this land is mine. You have no authority here, Karen. Not a single bolt, not a single beam is yours to place." Karen's face twisted in fury. "Do you hear me?" she shrieked, pointing at Marcus as if stabbing him with her finger. "Do you understand who runs this neighborhood? I am the HOA. I decide. Get out, or face consequences." Marcus felt his pulse spike. The mall behind Karen had grown taller now, steel beams clawing into the sky, scaffolding creaking, workers perched precariously on half-finished floors. He realized she was willing to risk everything to complete this mall, even breaking the law. Suddenly, a massive crane groaned, swinging a bundle of steel with alarming velocity. A worker shouted, ducking as the bundle almost struck a support beam. Sparks and debris flew, dust filling the air like smoke. Karen didn't flinch. She only screamed louder, pointing directly at Marcus. "Move, now. Don't make me call security. Finish the work." Marcus's jaw tightened. He had to act, but any rash movement could provoke disaster. The tension was a living entity, pressing down on everyone, bending the air itself. Police radios crackled, workers muttered nervously, and Karen's relentless screaming echoed across the suburban lot like a siren of doom. Then, from the corner of his eye, Marcus spotted something. A small gap in the legal documents he had previously overlooked. A clause that could immediately halt construction. If he could bring that to the attention of the authorities, the mall's ambitious rise might crumble before Karen could claim victory. But before he could move, Karen spun on him one last time, pointing and shrieking, "Step back, Marcus! I will not be stopped. This land, this project, mine." And in that frozen heartbeat, the entire construction site seemed to teeter on the edge of disaster. Excavators poised, steel beams swaying, police unsure how to intervene, and Karen's fury reaching a crescendo. Marcus knew that the first real battle for control was about to erupt, and one wrong move could turn the suburban lot into a catastrophe. The clang of metal rang across the site like a war drum. Marcus Drayton stepped back slightly, surveying the chaos with a calculated intensity. The three-story skeleton of the mall loomed overhead, jagged steel and half-finished walls stretching into the sky. Dust hung thick in the air, glittering in the harsh sunlight, and excavators groaned as they swung steel beams into precarious positions. Karen Hollingsworth had not ceased her shrieking since dawn. Engineers darted nervously under her gaze, obeying frantic orders even as debris rattled around their feet. "Faster! Don't waste a second! Move that beam now!" she bellowed, spinning on Marcus midstep, fingers stabbing in his direction. "Do you think your papers matter? Get out of my sight!" Marcus clenched the leather folder containing the deed. He had read through every clause meticulously, and he knew there was one legal loophole Karen hadn't considered. "This land is mine," he called across the din. "You're building without permits. Every bolt, every beam. It's illegal." Karen's laugh was shrill, almost hysterical. "Illegal?" she screamed, throwing her clipboard into the air. "I am the HOA. I make the rules. You have no say. Move, Marcus." She stomped toward him, the echo of her boots competing with the roar of machinery, her finger never leaving his chest from a distance. From above, a drone-like perspective captured the tension perfectly. Marcus stood firm, the folder in his hands, his eyes locked on Karen. Behind them, excavators swung steel with terrifying force, the partially built mall teetering like a mechanical giant. Police cruisers dotted the perimeter, officers shouting, trying to mediate without provoking Karen further. Marcus took a deep breath. He could feel the adrenaline thrumming through his veins. The loophole was simple but devastating. A clause in the deed and municipal law stipulated that any construction without proper approval on private land could be halted immediately, and the responsible parties could be ordered to demolish the work at their own expense. If he presented it correctly, Karen's three-story dream could collapse legally before it was finished. Karen, oblivious to his plan, continued her tirade. "Do you hear me, Marcus? You're powerless here. Move away before I call security. Finish this project, workers. Do not let him intimidate you." Her voice ricocheted between the steel beams, reverberating through the site like an avalanche of fury. Marcus edged closer to a police officer, his voice steady and commanding. "Sir, I need this site shut down immediately. I have the deed, and the construction is illegal. They're trespassing on private property." The officer hesitated, glancing at the chaos around him. Karen yelling, engineers panicking, excavators swinging dangerously. Finally, he nodded, lifting his radio. "Dispatch, we have a legal dispute at 32 Maplewood Lane. Construction is to halt until verification." Karen turned, fury consuming her like wildfire. "What? Halt?" she shrieked, spinning toward Marcus, pointing as if to pierce him through the chest. "You can't do this. I am the HO. I decide what gets built here." Her screams escalated, bouncing off steel beams and unfinished floors. Sparks flew as an excavator arm scraped a support column. Workers scrambled to safety. The golden sunlight reflected off metal surfaces, magnifying the drama into an almost surreal spectacle. Marcus held the folder aloft, his pulse steady despite the chaos. "It's over, Karen," he said, voice resonant with authority. "The law is on my side. This construction stops now." Karen's face contorted, a mask of fury and disbelief. "Stop! This is my project. You think a piece of paper can..." Before she could finish, a loud metallic groan echoed through the site. One of the partially installed steel beams wobbled violently, threatening to topple. Engineers screamed as dust and sparks erupted around it. Karen froze mid-shout, eyes wide with horror, realizing that Marcus's words were about to become reality in more ways than one. Marcus's heart pounded. The first legal strike had been made, but the mall, towering, unfinished, and dangerously unstable, loomed behind Karen like a ticking time bomb. He knew this confrontation was only escalating. Karen's wrath, the legal battle, and the perilous construction site combined into a volatile storm that could erupt at any moment. And then, just as Karen turned to continue her tirade, a police officer shouted urgently, "Everyone back! The steel beam is coming down." The air froze. Marcus's eyes locked on the swaying structure. Karen's scream cut through the dust and sunlight like lightning. The construction site held its breath, teetering between disaster and salvation. The battle for the land had begun in earnest, and Marcus realized that the fight would take every ounce of courage, strategy, and legal leverage he had. The steel beam shuddered violently, groaning under its own weight, and the air was thick with dust and the scent of hot metal. Marcus Drayton's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. The partially built mall was more than a structure. It was a ticking time bomb, a monument to Karen Hollingsworth's arrogance. Karen, oblivious to the imminent danger, continued her tirade, voice slicing through the chaos like a whip. "Move it! Lift the beam higher. I said clear him OFF. Now!" Her blonde hair glimmered under the harsh sunlight as she stomped toward Marcus, finger jabbing repeatedly in his direction. "Do you hear me? I am the HO. I decide." Engineers ducked and scrambled under the whiplash of her commands, their movements frantic, their fear palpable. One misstep could bring the massive steel skeleton crashing down. The excavators behind the structure groaned as if protesting, swinging their arms dangerously close to unsecured beams. Sparks erupted from scraping steel. Marcus felt the adrenaline spike. He knew that any rash move could provoke disaster, yet hesitation was no longer an option. He stepped forward, raising the leather folder with the deed like a shield. "This construction is illegal. Stop. Every bolt you place is trespassing." Karen spun, screaming louder than ever, pointing directly at him. "Illegal? I am the HOA. Do you think a piece of paper can stop me? Move." Her voice ricocheted between the half-built walls, echoing across the site like a siren of fury. Police officers struggled to mediate, forming a human barrier between Marcus and the construction zone. "Ma'am, sir, back away. Everyone step aside. No one moves until this is sorted legally," one officer shouted over the din. Karen ignored him entirely, her eyes ablaze. "Step aside? Step aside? I won't let him stop this project." She gestured wildly to the engineers. "Lift it higher. Don't let him intimidate you. Do it now." The crowd of workers froze as a massive steel beam groaned again, tipping slightly, sending sparks flying. Dust swirled like a miniature tornado. Marcus's heart raced. A misstep could obliterate the crane's balance, the half-finished structure, or worse, Karen herself. He approached one officer cautiously. "If we don't halt this, it could collapse. The deed gives me immediate legal authority. You need to enforce it before it's too late." Meanwhile, Karen noticed him moving toward the police, her fury erupting into pure rage. "You think you can outsmart me?" she shrieked, spinning in place, pointing at him like a dagger. "Stop him. Finish the mall. I am the HOA." Excavators swung metal beams dangerously close to half-finished floors. Sparks erupted again as steel scraped metal, clanging loudly. Engineers ducked instinctively. The police radios crackled with urgent commands, attempting to coordinate safety. Marcus realized that waiting any longer could be catastrophic. The mall had grown taller, more unstable, and Karen's obsession blinded her to reason. Every command she issued amplified the risk, turning the construction site into a volatile trap. He glanced at the deed one more time, memorizing the clause that would allow him to legally halt the construction immediately. A plan formed. He would present the deed, enforce the law, and force the work to stop, but timing was critical. Karen's voice rose to a deafening pitch, competing with the groaning steel. "Do you hear me? I will not be stopped. Finish this mall." And then, a sudden, piercing screech echoed across the site. One of the massive beams swayed violently, threatening to topple. Workers screamed. The excavator arm groaned, sparks flying. Marcus froze, realizing that if no one acted instantly, catastrophe was imminent. The police shouted orders. Karen screamed over them, and Marcus knew that this moment would define the battle for his land. In the heart of the chaos, all eyes were on Marcus and Karen. One armed with the law, the other armed with sheer audacity. The steel skeleton of the mall seemed to teeter with every command, and the tension hung like a knife over the site. The air was thick with dust and tension. Every metallic clang echoed like a hammer on a ticking clock, warning of imminent catastrophe. Marcus Drayton's eyes darted across the site. The three-story skeleton of Karen Hollingsworth's mall swayed with each movement of the massive excavators, its steel beams groaning as if protesting their precarious assembly. Sparks leapt from scraping metal, illuminating dust clouds that swirled around the workers' frantic feet. Karen had escalated beyond shouting. She now ran between engineers and machinery, screaming orders that sounded more like commands to war than construction guidance. "Move it! Faster! Don't hesitate! He doesn't own this! He doesn't own this!" Her finger jabbed at Marcus repeatedly, her fury so intense it seemed to push the very air away from him. Marcus's pulse pounded, but he remained calm, his mind calculating. Every swing of a steel beam, every rumble of the excavators was a potential hazard. One misstep could topple the mall, injuring everyone. He approached a police officer cautiously, the deed clutched like a weapon. "You must halt this now," he said firmly. "This is illegal. The law is on my side. Karen is ignoring every regulation. If this keeps going, it's a disaster waiting to happen." Karen spun mid-step, her blonde hair glinting in the afternoon sun, her eyes blazing with fury. "Disaster?" she shrieked, pointing directly at Marcus. "You think you can stop me? I am the HO. I control this site." She lunged toward a worker, waving a clipboard, barking additional orders. "Lift the beam. Don't let him intimidate you. Faster." The construction seemed alive with chaos. Excavators swung steel dangerously, sparks flying as beams scraped against one another. Dust choked the air. Workers froze, ducked, and whispered nervously. Police officers shouted warnings and tried to mediate, forming a human barrier between Marcus and the increasingly unhinged Karen. Marcus stepped forward decisively, brandishing the deed. "I've waited long enough. Stop construction immediately. This land belongs to me. Every action here is illegal. You have no authority to continue." Karen's laughter rang shrill, almost maniacal. "Authority?" she screamed. "I am the HOA. No piece of paper, no law, nothing can stop me. Finish it. Complete the mall." Her hand jabbed at Marcus again, trembling with rage. Suddenly, a metallic groan reverberated through the partially built structure. One of the upper steel beams wobbled violently, its weight threatening to topple over. Workers screamed. Sparks flew. Dust clouds erupted as the beam scraped a support post. Marcus's heart raced. The mall had become a physical manifestation of Karen's audacity, unstable and dangerous. He took a deep breath, realizing he could no longer rely solely on words. He needed action. Moving quickly but carefully, he signaled to a nearby officer, pointing at the exposed structure. "If this continues, the beam will fall. You need to enforce the law before it collapses. Stop it now." Karen, oblivious to the immediate danger, spun again, shrieking, "I said continue. I decide. He will not stop me." She barked orders to engineers, who hesitated, fear overtaking obedience. The beam creaked louder, bending unnaturally. Marcus's mind raced. The clause in the deed could immediately halt construction, but he had to get it officially recognized before Karen's obsession caused irreparable harm. He stepped toward the officer with determination, ready to enforce the law, while the mall behind Karen loomed like a ticking time bomb. From above, the drone perspective captured the full chaos. Marcus confronting Karen, her fingers stabbing at him, police forming a barrier, engineers frozen mid-action, the massive mall swaying, and sparks erupting from metal scraping metal. Every element screamed impending disaster. Karen's fury reached its peak. "Move him. He doesn't own this. Finish it!" she screamed, oblivious to the swaying beam that now threatened to topple entirely. Her shouting was deafening, a hurricane of rage that seemed to bend the chaos around her. The afternoon sun cast harsh shadows across the suburban lot, highlighting the towering three-story skeleton of Karen Hollingsworth's mall. Marcus Drayton stood firmly at the edge of the construction zone, leather folder clutched tightly. Every swing of the excavators, every groan of steel beams, made the air vibrate with tension. Sparks erupted sporadically from metal scraping metal, dust swirling around workers frozen mid-motion. Karen had escalated beyond fury. Now she was a whirlwind of aggression, running between engineers, pointing at Marcus with both hands, her shrill voice slicing through the chaos. "Lift it higher. Don't let him stop you. Step aside. I'll destroy anyone who defies me. This is my project." Her blonde hair flashed in the sunlight like a halo of menace. Marcus's pulse raced, but his focus remained razor-sharp. He knew that the deed in his hands was more than paper. It was the key to stopping this madness. Every command Karen shouted, every steel beam she ignored, amplified the danger. The mall itself had become a ticking time bomb, a physical representation of her unchecked arrogance. He approached a police officer and gestured at the swaying upper beam. "If this continues, someone will get hurt. The deed gives me immediate authority to halt construction. You need to enforce it now before it collapses." Karen spun mid-step, her face twisted with disbelief and fury. "Authority?" she screamed. "I am the HOA. No piece of paper can stop me. Finish the mall. He will not win." She waved her clipboard toward the workers, who hesitated, fear overtaking obedience. The partially built steel frame groaned under its own weight, swaying precariously. Sparks flew from a beam scraping a support, and dust exploded into the air like smoke. Workers ducked instinctively, eyes wide, whispers of panic running through the site. Police officers shouted commands, attempting to create order amidst the chaos. Marcus exhaled slowly, then stepped forward decisively, unfolding the deed and raising it high. "This is your legal stop," he announced, voice calm but firm. "Construction on this land is illegal. Every action taken here is trespassing. You must halt immediately, or you will face the full consequences of the law." Karen's laughter rang shrill and manic. "Consequences?" she screamed, pointing directly at him, her finger trembling with rage. "I am the HOA. I decide. No law, no paper. No one can stop me. Finish it." As she barked orders, the crane above groaned, swinging a massive steel beam over the third floor. Sparks flew as it scraped against another beam. The structure leaned slightly, creaking ominously. Dust filled the air, swirling around Marcus and Karen as if the chaos itself were a living entity. Marcus didn't flinch. He took a step closer to the officer, pointing at the shaky beam. "If this isn't halted immediately, that beam will collapse. Someone will get hurt. You need to enforce the law now." Karen, ignoring the danger entirely, spun and bellowed at the engineers. "Move it! Faster! He doesn't own this. Finish the mall now." Her voice reached a deafening pitch, almost harmonizing with the groans of metal above. The beam wobbled violently, sparks erupting from its contact points. Dust cascaded like smoke, making visibility difficult. Workers screamed, ducking and scrambling to safety. Police officers formed a human barrier between Marcus and the unstable construction. Marcus's mind raced. The deed could stop this legally, but Karen's sheer audacity made the immediate enforcement delicate. One wrong move could trigger disaster, not just legal fallout. He had to time it perfectly, present the deed officially, enforce the law, and ensure the safety of everyone on site. Karen's fury had reached its crescendo. "Move him! He doesn't own this! Finish it!" she shrieked, pointing at Marcus as if her finger alone could strike him down. And then, with a thunderous metallic groan, the steel beam shifted slightly. Sparks and dust exploded around it, and the entire structure swayed ominously. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. If no one acted immediately, the partially built mall could collapse, causing irreparable damage. From above, the drone perspective captured the tension perfectly. Marcus standing resolute, deed in hand. Karen shrieking and pointing. Police forming barriers. Engineers frozen mid-motion. The three-story skeleton of the mall trembling like a giant, unstable beast. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the chaotic construction site. The three-story mall, Karen Hollingsworth's obsession, was finally nearing completion. Steel beams gleamed in the fading sunlight, scaffolding braced precariously, and the skeletal structure stood as a monument to ambition and defiance. Yet, the air was thick with tension, the calm before the inevitable storm. Karen ran across the site like a whirlwind, clipboard in hand, shouting orders with unparalleled ferocity. "Finish it! Don't stop! He cannot control this! Lift the beam! Move faster! Clear the site!" Her finger jabbed relentlessly toward Marcus Drayton, who stood near the police line, leather folder clutched like a sword. "Step aside, Marcus. I am the HO. You cannot stop me." Marcus's eyes narrowed. The mall behind her was nearly complete, each floor a testimony to her ruthless will, but legality was on his side. He approached the officer in charge, calm yet commanding. "It's time. Present the deed. Halt construction immediately. This project is illegal. The land belongs to me." Karen's face contorted in disbelief. "What? Halt? This is my dream. I am the HOA. I decide. No paper can stop me." She spun, pointing at Marcus as though sheer fury could obliterate the law itself. Engineers froze mid-task, fear etched on their faces. The police officers hesitated for only a heartbeat before enforcing Marcus's command. A megaphone crackled across the site. "Construction halted immediately. Cease all activity. Legal authority confirmed." Karen's shriek echoed, ricocheting off steel beams. "I said finish it. You cannot stop me. Move him. He does not own this." The mall stood complete, the golden light illuminating its towering presence. Excavators were still, steel beams frozen mid-air, and dust settled like a shroud over the scene. Marcus stepped forward, presenting the deed officially. "This land is mine. You built without approval. Every bolt, every floor illegal. The court will decide, and your project will not stand." Karen's laughter rang sharp and manic. "The court?" she screamed. "You think they will destroy my work? I am the HO. I decide." Weeks passed. Marcus had presented the deed and legal evidence in court. The drama of the suburban battlefield had escalated to municipal hearings, media coverage, and public outrage. Karen fought with every fiber of her being, her HOA authority clashing with the immovable force of the law. The final hearing arrived. Marcus stood in the courtroom, the deed in hand, the judge's gaze fixed on Karen, who was now pale with fury and disbelief. "The construction on the property at 32 Maplewood Lane is illegal," the judge declared. "Karen Hollingsworth and all responsible parties are ordered to demolish the structure immediately. Any attempt to continue work will result in severe penalties." Karen's scream echoed like a banshee, reverberating through the marble halls. "No, this is impossible. I built it. I controlled this site. You cannot take it from me." The court's gavel struck. The decision was final. Marcus exhaled slowly, the weight of weeks of tension lifting slightly. The mall that had loomed so arrogantly over his family's land would be reduced to rubble, justice reclaiming what had been unlawfully seized. Back at the construction site, demolition crews arrived, steel beams being dismantled carefully, excavators tearing down the structure that had been Karen's obsession. Karen, shouting orders even as the work began, was finally powerless. Marcus watched, calm but resolute, as her dream collapsed piece by piece. From above, an aerial shot captured the full scene. Marcus standing tall at the edge of his reclaimed land, Karen screaming futilely amidst the controlled demolition, police officers overseeing the process, and the skeletal remains of the three-story mall being reduced to rubble. The dust rose like a curtain, swallowing the chaos but leaving a clear victory for law, logic, and property rights. In that moment, Marcus realized that confrontation, patience, and the unwavering application of law had won against unchecked arrogance and tyranny. Karen's rage, though monumental, could not overcome legal authority. The suburban battlefield was silent now, save for the crunching of machinery and the settling dust. Justice had been served, the mall destroyed, and the property returned to its rightful owner. Yet the echoes of Karen's fury lingered in the wind, a reminder that audacity and defiance could only carry one so far before the law reclaimed its dominion. The dust settled. Marcus stood victorious, the deed in hand, as Karen's mall lay in ruins. Justice had prevailed, and the suburban battlefield was finally silent. If you enjoyed this cinematic HOA drama, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intense, high-stakes stories where audacity meets the law.